welcome. You're with the big coverage on Times Now as Russia has gone to war against Ukraine. Even as we speak, the meeting between the two countries is currently underway. Here are the top 5 developments at this moment. For over 3 hours now, the two countries have been on the talks table. The Ukraine-Russia war has entered its 5th day. Times Now is tracking all the top developments. Ukraine has listed 3 demands. It wants immediate ceasefire. It has also sought withdrawal of troops and for Crimea's return to Ukraine. Ukraine now is claiming that heavy shelling is taking place on its cities and that 5,000 Russian troops have been killed by them so far. Economic sanctions have hit Russia. Central banks are in a crisis. So the 5th day of war, they have finally come to the talks tables and the 5 big developments on your screens right now. However, there seems to be a stalemate of sorts where Ukraine is saying you have to remove your troops. Russia is saying nothing doing. Mr. Devare, S.T. Devare, former Secretary of the External Affairs Ministry, is joining us along with Professor Swaran Singh, who's the chairperson at the Center for Politics, Organization and Disarmament at JNU. Mr. Devare, I first want to ask you, you think this is going to be a stalemate?
Well, ceasefire is a demand which Ukraine has made because although they are putting up a very strong resistance, including by civilians, volunteers, women, they are conscious that there is a limitation how long they can go on fighting against the mighty Russian army. So I think, and they do not want further damage and destruction of their country. Their cities are being damaged. Economy has come to complete standstill. So I think that demand they will certainly press. They are also asking for withdrawal of Russian troops, which is not likely to be acceptable to the Russians. So I think they will press. Crimea, I think, is again a kind of a demand which they know Russians are least likely to really oblige. But I think this will be the initial positions which the Ukrainian delegation has taken at the Belarus talks. Russian positions are not yet very well known, but they were expecting a quicker solution to this whole issue.
Yes. And
5 days war in today's times actually is a very long war. Normally wars in modern times do not last that long.
In fact, today it was for the first time that Russia even accepted that they have suffered casualties of this kind.
Yes.
5,000 is what has been claimed by Ukraine. They are saying that tanks have been destroyed. But remember, all of these claims also have to come with the caveat that while there is a 5-day war that has been fought on ground, there is an equally long propaganda war that has gone on online, where both sides are saying we're winning, we're ones who have the upper hand over here. Professor Swaran Singh, what is your feeling? How long will this stalemate carry on for?
I think the fact that both are beginning to talk is obviously meaning it's not stalemate. First thing to notice, despite this continuous 5 days and Ukraine standing up to Russia, Russia is not expanding it to west of the Dnipro River. So there's a whole region of 60% of Ukraine which is not under any fear or stress of attacks so far. Third important thing to understand here is talks mean Russia is now, at least for the time being, not talking of dethroning Zelensky. They are willing to talk to Zelensky's representatives. Fourth thing to understand, Zelensky is willing to enter conversations, talks, facilitated by Lukashenko. He was not recognizing Lukashenko. He was saying Lukashenko is fighting along with Putin. So there are definitely certain dynamics which make it possible. I think first talks are usually to set up the tenor and trajectory of talks itself. But obviously the focus will be on ceasefire. And Russia would say that then let us later think about terms of Russian withdrawal, which may or may not happen. But at this stage, it seems Zelensky is going to stay on at least for a few weeks, a few days, definitely. And therefore, Russia is no longer pushing dethroning Zelensky at this stage, and definitely containing itself to east of the Dnipro River. And I heard Maruf in the beginning say at 7 o'clock show that it could be possible that you could have Kyiv replacing Berlin of 1961, in that sense of NATO forces being west of the Dnipro River and Russian forces being on east of Dnipro the Dnipro River. If the contest continues, then perhaps at some stage covertly you will see Western forces entering here to support, train and provide facilitation, etc. So that kind of thing. But I think talks is a kind of a movement which is kind of opening doors, a foot in the door at least.
Okay, but also at the same time, even as there are some 4 big questions which the world is looking at as these talks continue for 3 hours, nobody is getting their hopes very high because both sides are also indulging in simultaneous mind games to undermine the other. Listen in.